Okay, so a couple things. First of all, I apologize if it's noisy. This is the first warm day that we've had in quite a while, and it very well may be the last. So I have people cutting the grass. My neighbor's cutting the grass right now. There's not a whole lot I can do about it, but I definitely need to get these mud flaps installed. So I'm really sorry if it's noisy, but I'll try to speak up so you can hear me clearly. Secondly is, if you watch my update video a while ago, I think it was like my second or third Aurora update, I actually purchased all these clips for my fender liner. I haven't been able to install them yet, just haven't had the chance or decent weather. So I'm gonna pop these in as well. That being said, I am going to lift the car up and put it on all 4 jacks and take all 4 wheels off to do this install. You do not need to take off all 4 wheels. You can work around them. If you turn your wheel full lock to either the left or the right, you should be able to work around with them and have enough room to do the install with the wheels still on the vehicle if you choose to do that. You shouldn't have to lift your car if you don't want to, but I want to show you guys exactly what I'm doing, and I want to make a good video so you could see what I'm doing. So for that reason, I'm going to lift up my car and take off all 4 wheels. Now the very first thing I'm going to do before I even begin to install this is make sure that I have all the necessary hardware, which is a good idea for any new product that you have that has hardware and parts to it. So obviously I ordered a set of mud flaps, so I should have 4 mud flaps. I have my 2 front mud flaps right here, which are more narrow and they have 4 mounting points. And I have my rear mud flaps, which are a little bit wider, and they have 3 mounting points. So front mud flaps, check. Rear mud flaps, check. On this list here that they include, I should have 6 round edge clips for the front. Now there are 2 types of clips that they have. These for the front actually have a rounded edge on the back, and these ones for the rear have a polygonal edge. They actually have angles to them. So they are similar, but you can tell them apart. So you want to make sure that you have 6 rounded edge clips for the front, which I have, and also 6 polygonal edge clips for the rear, which I also have. I should also have 14 washers right here, which I already counted, but you definitely want to make sure that you have 14 of them. And I should have 8 short stainless steel screws and 6 long ones. Now I'm very happy that RallyArmor decided to use stainless steel in their hardware. For whatever reason, some companies I guess try to save a buck and they use regular stainless or galvanized. Even galvanized steel in the Northeast, when they use salt for the roads, doesn't do much. The coating wears off and it ends up rusting anyhow. So good on RallyArmor for using quality products here and quality materials. I should also have 4 spacers here, which I do, and 2 plastic inserts. Now these are going to pop through the fender liners and expand out to hold in these screws. It says right here, my recommended tools are a Phillips screwdriver and an offset Phillips flathead screwdriver and an 8mm wrench. So I have a pretty good set of tools, so I'm sure I have all of these, but you always want to make sure that you have all the tools that you're going to need before you even start the install. And also you want to make sure that you read completely through all the instructions so that you have an idea what you're getting into before you even start. So with that being said, I'm going to read through the instructions really good once again, and then I'm going to go outside and install these.
Take me away from home. Show me all the places I've never known. And we'll chase the night, race all of these broken dreams in flight, and we'll
Okay, so one thing that I noticed when I took off all my wheels is there was actually a buildup of rust inside the lugs and on the threads. So what I'm gonna do is brush out the threads and take my lug nuts and tap them against the ground to try and get all that debris out of there. If you don't get the debris out, what can happen is whenever you put your wheels back on and you torque down these nuts, it could cause them to seize up and next time you go to take them off, you either won't be able to get it off or you'll end up breaking the stud off. So anytime that I notice that there's a buildup of rust, debris, anything like that, I always make sure that I brush it out really good and try to take care of it. Now, because these are going to be actually torqued down, you don't want to put in WD-40 or anything like that, any type of lubricants or penetrating oil or anything like that. So there's not a whole lot you can do about it, but brushing it out and leaving it dry is good. You can rinse them off if you want, wash them a little bit, but you just want to make sure that you dry them perfectly before you reinstall your wheels. Otherwise, you could end up with even more rust than you started with. So, like I said, before I get to the actual install of the mud flaps, I'm going to install all these fender liner clips because right now mine are just wherever. So I need to figure out where all these go. So as you can see, I have the polyurethane mud flaps, which are very durable, and I don't have to worry about them cracking or breaking. Okay, so now I'm ready to install my mud flaps. I have all my hardware handy. It's right next to me. It's all organized so I can find the part that I need quickly. And I also have my mud flaps. Now, this mud flap here is going to be for the front driver side. As you could see, it has the logo on it. And this notch here is going to face the inside of the car. So the logo faces the rear. This notch is always going to face the inside of the car. So it's going to get mounted like this. So you want to make sure you're putting the right mud flap on the correct side of the car. Now, my fender liner is still missing some hardware because the Subaru dealer was out, but that's okay because it's going to be replaced with the hardware provided with this kit. Now, the first step is I'm going to remove a couple of these clips from position 1, 2, 3, and 4 so that I could get access to the body. Now, oftentimes these clips end up getting broken and jacked up. I couldn't even get the Phillips screwdriver in here like you're supposed to because there's debris in there. So you could basically count on these breaking if your car isn't brand new. So just be aware of that, and you might have to pull them out like I did. So now that that's taken care of, step 2 is going to be to pull back this fender liner and pull down the side skirt slightly so I could actually get back there and place the clips where I need them to be. One thing to note about the fender liner is it's actually very thin, and while it's durable, it can rip easily if you're not careful with it. So just be mindful of what you're doing and try not to rip it. So this right here should be good enough for what I need to do. Now, there are clips on the bottom of the side skirt holding it on, but I really don't have to go further than this point, so there's no reason to take it off. You don't have to take off the whole side skirt. You just need to get in here so you could place some plastic clips. Now, step 3 is to place rounded edge clips over locations 1, 2, and 3. Like I showed earlier, some of these have rounded edges and some have polygonal edges. The polygon is for the rear, the rounded ones are for the front, so you want to make sure that you're installing the correct ones. Now, the directions go into a little bit more detail on exactly how to install these, but instead of me just reading those and trying to explain it to you, I'm going to show you guys. So if you could see, these are an S shape, and how you want to install them is that this narrow part here is basically going to clip on the inside of this metal, sheet metal of the fender. And this nub here is going to be facing the back of the car. So it's going to go like this, and it's going to pop right in. And the idea is that you're going to put this on, You're going to put your fender liner back over it, and then whenever you run your screw down through, it's going to bite into this part on the back side of the clip. So you want to make sure that you're putting these in the right direction. You also want to make sure that you're lining up the hole in the clip with the hole in the fender. Now the one at the very bottom, position number 3, is a little bit difficult to get to, but you should be able to wedge it right in there. And slide it down. If you're not sure if it's matched up perfectly, you could also take a screwdriver and just put it in slightly and line it up with the hole that way. And now that that's done, I'm going to put my fender liner back, and it's going to cover up these clips. Now step 4 is to take one of these plastic clips here. You have 2 of them for the fronts, 1 for each side, and it's actually going to go into position 4. Which is right back here. Now when you insert this clip into position 4, you want to make sure that it sits flush with the actual body panel. Now there are 2 ways to do this. You can either try and go through the fender liner on the outside, or you could put it behind the fender liner, which I think is what I'm going to try to do, because my fender liner doesn't line up great. So I could either fight with it and try and get it to work, or I could just pop it in behind the fender liner. So you do have options when it comes to this. So I'm going to put mine behind here. I'm just going to peel this back a little bit, find that hole, and pop it in. Now this clip here did take a lot of coaxing for me. I had to wiggle it around a lot just to get it in there. So it may be the same for you, but it will go in. I'm definitely glad that I went with the behind the fender liner approach. That way I know it's perfectly flush like it needs to be. Now in my opinion, step 5 is not written out very well. It is lacking some detail, so if you don't know exactly how these mud flaps are supposed to look, it can be confusing, but it's not that bad. If you could put 2 and 2 together, you should be able to figure it out. So what step 5 doesn't mention is that you have to grab a mud flap. All these instructions up to this point are dealing strictly with this fender liner and dealing with these clips and removing all that. So step 5 reads, place a washer first, then a long screw in the number 4 innermost slot on the flap. Place a spacer on the flap side with the logo. So that isn't too confusing, but if you have trouble, visualizing words and stuff and how to assemble all this, it can be a little bit confusing, and I can understand that. So I'm going to show you guys exactly how to do this. Okay, so I have my mud flap right here, logo side, blank side. This blank side is going to always face the front of your car, so it's going to mount right like this. This slot right here is your number 4 slot because it corresponds to the number 4 position over here. So what you're going to do is, first of all, take a washer and you're going to place it right against this mud flap. Now on these mud flaps, you have 1 washer for each slot where a screw is going to go, and that is basically so that the screw doesn't pull through the actual mud flap. This washer is going to spread out the pressure across the actual mud flap. Next, you're going to take a long stainless steel screw and you're going to place it through your washer and through your mud flap, so it looks just like that. Now on the back side, you're going to take one of your 4 spacers. You have 1 for each fender, and you're going to slide it on like that. So you should have a sandwich where you have your screw running through your washer, through your mud flap, and then through a spacer on the back. And this is going to go right in here, and it's going to screw into that insert that I just placed. Now step 6 is to actually place this on here and screw it in slightly. You want it to still be loose so that you could have some adjustability, but you don't want it to go anywhere. So I'm going to start it by hand a little bit. Now this is where a short stubby screwdriver could be a great tool. For me, I'm showing you guys so that you can see everything. So I already have removed my wheels, but if you didn't remove your wheels, you may be able to get in here with a very short screwdriver. So step 7 is going to be placing a screw in position 1. Now you're going to take a short screw for this position. Of course, you have a washer, and it's going to go into position 1, and I'm going to screw into the clip that I placed there earlier. Again, you want to leave it a little bit loose so that you have some adjustability. Now step 8 is to place the remaining screws. I have 2 screws left. Position 2 here is going to be a short screw, and position 3 is going to be a long screw. So it's the exact same step for this position. And again, it's going to be a long screw for this bottom position. Now these screws are self-tapping, so there is some work to be done, but it's not too bad. Now the very last thing I want to do before I completely snug all these up is I want to make sure that the bottom of the mud flap is parallel to the ground and that the sides are straight as well. And you just want to make sure that the mud flap is secure. So now let's move on to the back. Okay, so now I'm at the rear of the car. This is the same side, driver side, rear. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place 2 clips, the polygon clips, rounded clips for the front, polygon for the rear. 2 polygon clips here and here. I'm gonna make sure those holes line up. And now the third clip that I'm going to place is actually going to replace this plug that is right here, right now. So I'm going to pop out this little body clip that comes from the factory. And I'm going to come in from the bottom and I'm going to place a clip right there. Now it's okay to go behind this little plastic piece. The only reason that you're placing this clip here is so that the screw will have something to bite into whenever you screw it in and mount the mud flap. So next I'm going to take my rear mud flap. You can tell it's a rear because it's wider and it only has 3 mounting points, and you can see how that's going to mount up with the holes in the body. So I'm going to take my rear mud flap and I'm going to take a washer, same as I did for the front. And for this innermost hole, that's the first place I'm going to start. I'm going to take the long screw and run it all the way through the washer and the mud flap. And I'm going to take a spacer and insert that on the back. And you can see these spacers are here so that your mud flaps sit flush like they should. So now that I have that screw started slightly, I'm going to take another screw and washer, and I am going to start at this bottom hole here and make sure that this lines up. And you're just going to screw it in same way as the front. You just want to snug it up a little bit, but you still want to have plenty of adjustability, so don't over tighten it. And for the top, it's going to be the same thing. Now, since these screws are self-tapping, it's best just to start them nice and slow until they get to bite into the back end of that clip. Now that I have all 3 screws installed, I still have plenty of adjustability here. I'm just going to make sure that my mud flap sits level like it should, and then I'm going to tighten them all down, same as I did with the front. And again, you want to make sure that they are secure, and that's all there is to it. So I do recommend these mud flaps. I love that they're polyurethane and they're going to be very durable, and I don't have to worry about them breaking or cracking or anything like that. I can't wait to use them in the winter. That we use salt on the roads up here, so hopefully that will keep a lot of that crap off of my car. But even without the winter, I still think they look great, and they're going to help debris not hit the side of my car from pebbles or rocks or anything like that. So I hope you enjoyed this install video. I hope it helps you. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them in the comments below. And if you want more videos like this, you should subscribe. So I'll catch you guys later. And that is what modifications are done to your car. So next up is wheels and tires. Now this right here is my summer setup. I also have my OEM BBS wheels with snow tires that I put on for the winter. I also upgraded my injectors to Injector Dynamics 1300cc top feed injectors.